My boyfriend swore. His friendship with his ex was innocent until a single photo changed everything. I never thought of myself as the jealous type. I had a good job, a stable life, and I was happy in my relationship with Callum. He was everything I had been looking for in a partner. Calm, reliable, and the kind of guy you could see building a future with. Our life together was smooth, with no drama or emotional ups and downs. But there was one thing that I always tried to push out of my mind: his ex, Renee. At first, I told myself that it wasn't a big deal. I was mature, confident, and plenty of people stayed friends with their exes. Callum had been upfront about their past. He assured me they had no feelings for each other anymore and that their relationship was purely platonic. I believed him. I even tried to be okay with their occasional meetups for coffee, their inside, jokes that I didn't get, and those random moments where Renee would turn up at the same places Callum and I were. But lately, it seemed like Renee was showing up more and more often, and I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was off. That all changed one afternoon when I received a message from Odette, my best friend. There were no words, just a photo. I opened it and there they were, Callum and Renee sitting at a small cafe, leaning in close, smiling like they had the most natural, easy connection. I looked at the timestamp. It read, 1 hour ago. That was the same time. Callum had texted me saying he was working late and that a deadline was killing him. The image was followed by a comment that instantly made my stomach drop. "So happy you guys are back together." I froze. My heart began to race and a wave of confusion and unease washed over me. Was this a joke? A misunderstanding? I stared at the photo again, hoping it would somehow make sense, but it didn't. My phone buzzed in my hand, and I saw that Odette was calling. I answered it quickly. "Girl," she said, her voice sharp. "If that were my man, his car would be on bricks right now." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The words sank in, and suddenly, all the little things that had been bothering me about Callum's friendship with Renee clicked into place. I had always tried to convince myself that there was nothing to worry about, but this photo, this moment, changed everything. I considered Odette's suggestion for a moment. Maybe a flat tire, a mysteriously missing phone charger, or even a Wi-Fi outage when he really needed it. Anything to throw him off track. Just a small inconvenience to make him feel the weight of his actions. But that's not the kind of person I was. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to do something. That photo, that comment, something was wrong, and I wasn't going to let it slide. I didn't confront Callum right away. That would have been too simple, too easy. Instead, I decided to play along and see what he would do. I wanted him to slip up, to reveal the truth himself. So when he walked through the door later that evening, I was already in the kitchen, stirring a pot of pasta, acting like nothing was amiss. I wanted to look as if I had spent the evening just as usual, completely unaware of his little cafe meetup. "Hey babe," Callum said as he dropped his keys on the counter. I turned to greet him with a warm smile, stepping forward to kiss him. "Long day?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "The worst," he replied with a sigh, dropping his bag and wrapping his arms around me. "Back-to-back calls, my brain is fried." Liar. I smiled to myself, hiding my thoughts. I pretended to believe him and turned back to the stove. "Dinner's almost ready. I figured we could just have a quiet night, maybe watch something," I suggested, casually, trying to sound as if I was completely absorbed in the moment. "Perfect. Exactly what I need," he answered, looking relieved. We sat down to eat together. The clinking of our silverware was the only sound breaking the comfortable silence between us. I twirled my pasta around my fork, trying not to make it obvious that I was watching him. He seemed relaxed, completely unaware that I knew what he had been up to that afternoon. "So, any interesting projects at work?" I asked, keeping my tone light, as if nothing had changed. "Just the usual," he replied, shoveling food into his mouth. "Meetings, deadlines, a never-ending inbox, you know how it is." I nodded, pretending to focus on my plate. "Sounds exhausting. At least you got a little break today." "Not really," he sighed again, pushing his plate aside. "Barely had time to eat." I bit my lip to hold back a smile. Liar. Instead, I gave a soft chuckle and shook my head. "You really need to stop working yourself into the ground. Otherwise, you'll end up being one of those guys who answers emails during date night." He laughed, clearly relieved to be off the subject. "That'll never be me." "Oh, Callum, you have no idea." Later, as we curled up on the couch, I watched him slowly begin to relax, thinking everything was fine. But just as I expected, his phone buzzed. I noticed him shift slightly, then quickly flip it over, screen down, as if he didn't want me to see. I raised an eyebrow but kept my voice casual. "Oh, work again?" I asked, pretending I didn't care. He barely glanced at me. "Yeah, just some last-minute changes to a project." The way he said it, so quickly, so evasive, told me everything I needed to know. Callum was hiding something. I could feel it in my gut, but I wasn't going to let him off the hook that easily. I just had to wait. The truth would come out soon enough. I tilted my head slightly, pretending to think about something. Then I casually asked, "Speaking of work, have you seen Renee this week?" Callum stiffened for just a moment. It was so quick that I almost missed it, but I was paying attention. His body language had shifted and I could see it. "No," he said, a little too quickly. I picked up my mug and took a slow sip of tea, keeping my gaze steady. "Really?" He exhaled through his nose and rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous gesture I had seen before. "Well, I ran into her the other day. There it was." I leaned back, keeping my tone casual. "And?" He reached for his glass of water, avoiding eye contact as he drank. "We just caught up for a bit. Nothing important." I smiled sweetly, nodding as if I completely bought his story. "Oh, okay." I could tell he was trying hard to maintain his calm, but I wasn't fooled. Callum was good at this, but I was better. We continued watching the movie, his arm draped over my shoulders, and his breathing gradually deepened as exhaustion took over. I let myself relax against him, but inside, I was alert, waiting. And then, finally, he fell asleep. When I was sure he was fully out, I carefully shifted, letting his arm slide off me. This was my moment. I reached for his phone, placing my finger on the screen. Face ID. It unlocked easily, confirming my suspicions. I held my breath as I glanced at his notifications. There it was, a message from Renee. "Can we meet tomorrow? Same cafe?" A cold wave washed over me. So she was comfortable enough to text him directly about meeting up. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I stared at the message for a moment, my mind racing through the implications. Then, just as smoothly as I had unlocked it, I locked his phone again and placed it back on the couch beside him. My heart was beating faster, but I knew exactly what I had to do next. I carefully slid out from under Callum's arm, grabbed my own phone, and tiptoed out of the room. The moment I closed the bedroom door behind me, I dialed the bank. The next day, Callum would be in for a surprise. I wasn't the type to cry or scream. That wasn't my style. If Callum wanted to play his little games, I'd let him think he was winning, right up until I flipped the board. I scrolled through. My phone found the name of the cafe where he and Renee had their friendly little meeting and placed an order. It was time to make my move, a special delivery. And then I waited. 2 hours passed, and just as I expected, my phone rang. Callum's name flashed on the screen. Perfect timing. I let it buzz a few times before answering, keeping my voice light and casual. "Hey babe, how's your night going?" There was silence on the other end. Then his voice came through, confused and frustrated. "Ayla, what did you do?" I grinned, swirling my milkshake with the straw, amused by his tone. "You sound stressed. Did something happen?" The waiter just brought something to my table. I feigned curiosity, playing along with his discomfort. "Oh, was it the check? I assume Renee is covering considering..." Well, I let the sentence hang in the air, knowing the implication would hit him hard. "Ayla," he said tightly, his voice almost strained. "You sent flowers." I leaned back on the couch, wrapping myself in a blanket, feeling strangely calm as I waited for him to fully realize what was happening. "Did I?" I said innocently. "The card..." He cut himself off, took a breath, and continued, clearly trying to keep his composure. "Enjoy your trashy romance." What is that supposed to mean? I hummed in response, my voice smooth. "Just a thoughtful gesture. Friends deserve flowers, don't they?" He muttered something under his breath, clearly realizing that I wasn't the kind of woman who would sit back and let him get away with anything. "Ayla, why are you doing this?" he asked, the frustration clear in his voice. I took a moment, letting the silence hang in the air before I responded. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe because my boyfriend told me he was working late while having cozy coffee dates with his ex? It wasn't like that," he replied quickly, but I could hear the defensiveness in his voice. Sure, babe," I said, my tone dismissive. There was another heavy pause on the other end of the line. I could practically feel his anger bubbling beneath the surface, but I wasn't done yet. Then came the final blow. The waiter just handed me the bill. My card was declined. I bit back a laugh, the irony of the situation not lost on me. "Well, given your recent overtime expenses, I thought a little budgeting was in order." "Ayla," his voice was a strained whisper now, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. "Relax, Callum," I murmured smoothly, my voice calm and collected. "I'm just playing fair." Another long pause followed, and I could picture him sitting there, his jaw clenched and his shoulders tense, struggling to control the situation that had already slipped out of his grasp. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke again, his voice quiet but resolute. "I'm coming home." "Good. I'll be waiting," I replied, my heart beating a little faster with anticipation. But before I could hang up, he added something that stopped me in my tracks. I'm not coming alone. I stared at the screen, feeling a surge of excitement. The game wasn't over yet. It was just beginning. In about 20 minutes, the front door opened. I straightened up, taking a deep breath. Callum walked in, looking exhausted, but there was no hint of guilt on his face. He wasn't sorry, at least not yet. The night was far from over. And then I saw her, Renee. She was standing right behind Callum. My heart skipped a beat. Why did he bring her here? Was this it? Was he about to confirm my worst fear? That everything I had been doubting was true? Callum ran a hand through his hair, his face tight with frustration. Okay, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of what he was about to say. You want the truth? I think I deserve that, I replied, my voice colder than I intended. Renee let out a long, resigned sigh. Ayla, I know how this looks, but... Oh, do you? I interrupted, my voice sharp. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like I thought it would. Callum raised a hand, signaling for us both to calm down. Just listen, he said, trying to keep control of the situation. I forced myself to stay silent, my heart racing in my chest. I was buying you a gift, he continued, his voice more calm now. A custom ring. Renee is a jeweler, and I asked for her help. I blinked, surprised. That was unexpected. I figured telling you would ruin the surprise, he added. I couldn't help it. I let out a dry, almost humorless laugh. Well, mission accomplished. There was a brief, uncomfortable silence as everything sank in. Then suddenly, the weight of it all hit me. I had been spending 2 years with Callum, and yet here I was, setting traps, looking for proof of a betrayal that didn't even exist. The person I should have been questioning wasn't him. It was me. I had let my own insecurities take control, and it had made me jump to conclusions. I exhaled deeply, my mind finally clearing. I screwed up. Callum raised an eyebrow, looking at me with some confusion. What do you mean? I let my insecurities win, I said, feeling the truth hit me. I didn't trust you. I jumped to conclusions, played games, and I groaned, embarrassed by my own behavior. The note at the restaurant. God. Renee smirked, clearly finding some amusement in the situation. I mean, it was iconic. Callum chuckled. It was dramatic. I covered my face in my hands, trying to hide the embarrassment I felt. I'm never living this down, am I? Not a chance, Callum teased, his voice light. But despite the teasing, I could feel the weight lifting. I looked up at him, a soft smile creeping onto my face. We'll be okay, I said, the calm finally returning to my voice. As long as we start being honest with each other. Callum squeezed my fingers, a reassuring smile on his face. Deal, Renee sighed, her patience clearly wearing thin. Great. Can I go now, or are we still processing? For the first time that day, I laughed. Genuinely laughed. The tension had finally broken. The storm had passed. The misunderstanding was over, and I felt like I could breathe again.